Hello friends! Most versions of engines can be spoken of in superlatives, if we mean dynamics. Without exception, all gasoline units have turbocharging and direct fuel injection. The 1.5-liter 3-cylinder turbo engine does not match the character of the model. The same applies to the 1.6-liter engine, which develops 136 horsepower. Much less objection is caused by a 2-liter engine, and even more so a 3-liter one. Interestingly, even a 306 horsepower unit can be content with less than 10 liters per 100 kilometers. And it torpedoes the top 3 up to 100 kilometers per hour in 5.6 seconds. Test measurements. Among diesels, it is better to choose between the 2.0 R4 and the 3.0 R6. If you do not take into account the 116 horsepower version, then you can count on really pleasant dynamics. The average real fuel consumption will be about 6 liters. For more economical, a version of efficient dynamics is provided, including those with gasoline engines. It received improved aerodynamics and tires with reduced rolling resistance. 3-liter diesel engines demonstrate about sporty dynamics. In terms of maintenance and service, the situation with engines is somewhat worse. First of all, they should be divided into 2 groups, before modernization in 2015 and after. Older gasoline engines belong to the N series. They are prone to the accumulation of soot on the intake valves. The base 1.6 of the N13 series is nothing more than a 1.6 THP created in collaboration with PSA. It became famous for problems with the timing chain. It can jump and destroy the engine. Another disadvantage of the 1.6 is the increased oil consumption due to early aging of the valve stem seals, or a faulty crankcase ventilation valve. The membrane is duping. The valve is built into the valve cover. After 80 to 120,000 kilometers, the turbocharger pipe and crankcase gases often lose their tightness. Do not differ in durability and ignition coils. Not only that, a faulty coil can even kill the DME engine control unit. The problem of a short-lived timing drive also affected the 2.0 series N20. Usually a stretched oil pump drive chain starts to make noise, or plastic chain guides crumble. The defect manifests itself over a fairly wide interval, 100 to 200,000 kilometers. Many owners prefer a preventive replacement of the timing drive after 100 to 120,000 kilometers. Increased oil consumption may be caused by a faulty CVHC built into the valve cover. At the same time, it is often necessary to eliminate fogging in the area of the heat exchanger and the oil filter housing. After restyling, gasoline units of the B series appeared. Theoretically, they were finalized, but as practice has shown, they are still not ideal. First of all, this applies to the 1.5-liter turbo engine. In the 2-liter B48, the tube connecting the cooling system reservoir to the cylinder head often burst. A 3-liter engine, both petrol and diesel, is the safest choice. Until 2015, the list of diesel units included the 2.0D N47 series. It had several versions. The 316D lacked swirl flaps, while the 318D did. They share a turbocharger. In the 320D, the turbine is already different, and in the 325D, there are 2 turbochargers. Piezoelectric nozzles were used. The most notorious issue with the N47 is the timing chain. Usually the timing drive has to be changed after 130 to 180,000 kilometers. However, there are instances that have passed 300,000 kilometers on the factory chain. Much depends on the operating conditions, the quality of the oil, and the frequency of its replacement. The first symptom of a malfunction is noise that appears after starting a cold engine. The kit itself is inexpensive, but the replacement is not. This is because the chain is installed on the side of the gearbox. The engine has to be dismantled. Some mechanics offer a replacement without removing the motor. Another problem is the crankshaft damper pulley, which is rented after 100,000 kilometers. And by 150 to 200,000 kilometers, a large amount of soot accumulates in the intake manifold. In 2015, the N47 was replaced by the 2-liter B47, 318D with 150 horsepower and 320D with 190 horsepower. It is less prone to stretching the timing chain, although this sometimes happens. All versions of the B47 received electromagnetic fuel injectors, with the exception of the 325D, which remained with piezoelectric injectors. The engines are paired with an 8-speed automatic ZF 8HP. It is quite reliable and durable, but subject to oil renewal every 60,000 kilometers. Sometimes the box pulls on the cold, but this usually cannot be fixed. The X-Drive transfer case of the optional all-wheel drive also requires regular oil changes. After 100 to 150,000 kilometers, the rear gearbox oil seals can get wet. And for fans of sports driving, annealing and drifting, the gearbox may soon make noise. The silent blocks of the rear gearbox wear out after 100 to 150,000 kilometers. Elastic couplings of the propeller shaft have to be updated after 150 to 200,000 kilometers. The suspension shows good wear resistance, but the cost of updating aluminum arms will not be low. After 60 to 100,000 kilometers, floating silent blocks may creak from behind. The silent blocks of the front levers become unusable after 80 to 120,000 kilometers. Ball joints will last no less. They come with a lever. Front and rear shock absorbers usually go over 100,000 kilometers. A little later, the rear shock absorber mounts may knock. The steering rack may require intervention after 100 to 150,000 kilometers. A knock appears. Wheel bearings are assembled with the hub and usually go over 200,000 kilometers. It's not just the engines that give cause for concern. Sometimes there are problems with the electrics. For example, light can begin to live its own life. A short circuit occurs in the LCM, or the media control module may need to be reprogrammed. You should pay attention to the rear lights. Contacts are oxidized or melted. There are also problems with door locks. The cable breaks or the lock itself surrenders. In the GT version, the control of the rear spoiler fails. BMW used this solution for the first time. Some owners complain about the quality of workmanship, squeaks and knocks in the cabin, and mediocre sound insulation. A batch of cars from the initial period of production received chairs that creak in corners. The light skin of the Dakota is very delicate, and if not taken care of, it wears out quickly. The leather upholstery of the driver's seat, central armrest, and steering wheel often deteriorates after 100 to 150,000 kilometers. By this time, the coating of the door handles also begins to peel off. If you know of other model malfunctions, be sure to write about it.